if the dog wants to be taken for a walk, it will look very pitifully at you. And it uses gamification to influence your behaviour. Of course, we all fall for it because we like to think that we're looking after our animals and our animals love us, so we fall for it. So all living creatures use games in one form or another, and they're a part of our DNA. So I would like to begin by defining what I think a game is. And a game that, in essence, is a challenge with an uncertain outcome. That's very important, that those two things, you've got to have a challenge, it's going to be a good game, and you've got to have an uncertain outcome. Because with a certain outcome, there's no fun or enjoyment in playing the game. So it's a challenge with an uncertain outcome. Life is a game. And the game that I think is probably closest to what life is like is golf. Because golf is a game that you can never master. And that's one of the challenges. You can have a really good day and you want to go and play again, but the next time you play, if the situation is different, you are terrible. So you persevere because you want to improve, and life is like that. My life is like a game of golf. You know, I face challenges every day, and those challenges are part of my development. So coming to Korea, where I don't understand the language, I don't speak the language, coming to the airport, trying to find where I should go to get the bus to the hotel. All of these are a challenge, and I love it. I'm 73 years old now, but I still want to develop, I still want to be challenged in my life. So it's like a game of golf. So what makes a game serious? We talk about serious games. I was founding director of the Serious Games Institute. I think it was the first Serious Games Institute in the world, looking back. But at the time, people looked at me when I said serious games, and I thought, well, how can a game be serious? A game should be fun, there should be pleasure, why should they be serious? The point is that a game becomes serious when there is a serious outcome at the end of it, what you're trying to achieve. So you could argue that children, when they play doctors and nurses, it's a fun game, but maybe there is a serious outcome because you want them to get interested in a career in medicine, maybe. And clearly, looking at some of the simulations that are available today for things like surgical procedures, they're clearly serious games. So, what's gamification? And if you understand what gamification is, how can you use it in practice, in any situation? If you understand some of the concepts and some of the theories behind gamification, it gives you a better chance of designing better games and also maybe playing games in a better way. So, as I said, gamification, whole of life is a game, and that's reality for some people, is the worst game ever designed. So every human activity can be viewed as a game. It's a life skill, and if you know how to use it, you can motivate other people and influence other people and have more control over your life. So these are some gamification concepts, and these are not from any research or that I've done. These are ideas that I've put together myself based on my own experience and observations of how games work. And the first of these is what I call the gamification engagement lens. And I'm using this as an example. Sport is clearly a game, many different types of sports. So the point about the gamification lens is that in any game, whether it's a serious game or it's an entertainment game, there are a number of roles that people play or fall into. So in the gamification lens, at the top, you have the games master. Now the games master is the person who really influences the outcome of the game. So in sport, for example, the really the most influential in achieving results. This is why you see football managers get sacked all the time. Football managers succeed because they are able to get the best out of their players. So they are really at the top of the pyramid. They have the most influence. Underneath them, you have to have players. These are people also who want to influence outcomes, and they play the game. So they develop their skills so in order to be able to win, and they get paid for it. Underneath them, you have spectators or fans. Now, in any game, in my opinion, these are some of the most important people, roles that play in any kind of game, serious or otherwise. So, in the case of sport and football, these are football fans. These are people who invest their time and their money to try and influence the results. They're not playing the game, but they're spending their time and their money, they're supporting, and they're hoping that their activities will help their team to win. So these are critical for the sustainability of the games. Underneath that, we have people who are less interested, but read the paper, look at the results of the football matches. They don't really maybe support a particular team, but they just like to keep their eye on it. And at the bottom, a role or people what I call hermits. And hermits really got no interest in the game at all. They don't play any part in it, they're not interested, they don't put anything into it. So when you're gamifying, in my view, your aim is to move people up this lens. You need people who are spectators. You want to change them into fans because they're going to influence the outcome. And if you're a player, you want to become the best player possible. So gamification is about pushing people up these roles. So this is in sport, but it also applies in war. Now, I've used the example of President Zelensky of Ukraine. He is a games master. He is the person who's developing the strategy. He's motivating his players, which are his army and his people, to try and have the best possible outcome for his country. Underneath him, then, the soldiers, you have the supporters or the opponents. And these, in the case of this situation, are countries who are putting money into supplying Ukraine with weapons and are supporting their situation. And then below that you've got spectators who read about the war but don't really have any influence, and then people who are not interested at all. So the idea, and this is what President Zelensky and anybody at the top of the tree is trying to do, is to turn people to get more, make people more engaged, make them into supporters, because that will help in the situation.